Hi there, tech people. It's Sean Worker, your host. Delighted to have you join us in another edition of Adapter TechX, where we explore the trends, fads of all things in business, in travel, tourism, hospitality, and retail. And all of this is powered by our friends at Hunter Gatherer. And a big shout out to Glenn Hausman at No Vacancy Live and No Vacancy News for being listed as the number one influencer in podcasts over at their podcast and station. Today is really exciting. We have two entrepreneurs that have a curious background and friendship that resulted in two new companies, Stasher and Treepoints. They'll tell you all about what they do and why they did this and what problems they're going to solve shortly. And in addition to that, according to my infamous notes over here and listening to the team there, Anthony Collias and Jacob Wedderburn Day, let me tell you, these guys are not alone running two companies, but they've also got one of the in the top 2.5% of podcasts out there with the morality of everyday things. So we're going to explore as to why they did this at all. They're noted as both the Forbes 30 under 30, the 29 under 29s with tech round. And I guess they're getting younger. Maybe there'll be a 27 under 27 by the way they're going. And equally, most recently, with the startup that they created during the pandemic, you know, all good things come out of a crisis. They are now linked to Starling's 15 eco entrepreneurs to watch in 2022. Well, guys, it's great to have you join us here. And, you know, there's Jacob on our left and Ant on the right. So, you know,
the other way around just to mix things up.
Yeah, because it's always that way, right? It's always that way. So what's with the podcast? Morality of everyday things.
There's kind of a narrative through Stasher riding through COVID, but I'll describe it as our lockdown one passion project.
COVID hit, Stasher went really quiet, and we can say more about that in due course. And we debate these kind of questions. I mean, if you've looked at the podcast, you'll see the kind of questions range from should billionaires exist to is it immoral to jump a red light if you're a cyclist to are you a bad person if you work at Facebook? There's a whole range, and these are the kind of things we like enjoy debating at lunch anyway. And we thought, why not package it as a podcast?
Well, good for you guys. So I'm sure we'll weave that more into the longer version of the podcast, but that gives you a taste of I think how you guys think. So rapid fire here. We're going through a few questions. Tell us what prompted you guys to start Stasher to start with, and what problem were you solving for? You know, you're in 300 cities, so clearly you've scaled this thing. But what's the core problem you were solving for that others weren't?
Well, so originally, actually, we just graduated. We knew we wanted to create a technology business. We were kind of constrained by the fact that we were young and didn't have much capital or experience. So one of the business models that makes a lot of sense is a platform. And originally, actually, the idea was kind of just a platform for storage more generally. I used to live between Euston and King's Cross. And just because my place was one of the early places we put live, as in my literal apartment, we just had tons of people leaving their things. And we realized that like long-term storage and short-term storage were very different businesses, and that you could charge a much higher premium for storage that was short-term in city center locations. But it made no sense in my apartment. I was willing to run back. It didn't make sense for anyone else. And we realized that businesses were open anyway and wanted ancillary revenue. And it just kind of went from there. We're like, okay, short-term storage in local businesses, primarily for tourists.
So the model we have now and the model that we've scaled is exactly that. It's a marketplace where you've got shops and hotels all around the world. People can book short-term storage in them. I think particularly, and we learned this in the early days when it was storing in Ant's apartment, because we had the fantastic privilege of our customers literally coming to the front door and then being able to ask them, how did you find us? What did you need us for? It was particularly things around like tourism, Airbnb, checkouts, check-ins, that time to kill between your flight and your check-in or checkout.
So have you solved the problem? You've been at this since 2015 now.
Yeah, well, I'd say in the locations we have places live, we more or less have. I think you get rave reviews from customers, which is one of the things that's most like heartening about it.
Well, like, as rave as a review for luggage storage would be.
Yeah, but I
it solved the problem for me.
Yeah, but you solved for the morality of a bag.
You do get quite enthusiastic ones around like, wow, didn't know this sort of service exists. You know, I got my last day back. That was like, you know. Made the most of my time.
Super simply, before the context of COVID, I would say, yes, we reached a point of product market fit. We had a product that people clearly wanted to pay for, that made sense for the hosts we were working with. Then obviously COVID kind of slowed us down, but now things are pretty much back to normal. That for us, and maybe it's a tangent we can go on, but a lot of people are under a lot of pressure to pivot during lockdowns and stuff. One thing that we were conscious of was that we did have a product that had product market fit. And
it was just badly affected by that.
And for us, really, it's interesting. You say if you solve the problem, like we have made a solution to the problem. The problem isn't solved until it's live in every urban area that you feasibly would want to leave your baggage.
There's a long way to go. So when you think of that long way to go, then you start this other venture called Treepoints.
Mm-hmm.
And in 30 seconds, what is Treepoints? What's happened in the last year? And just 30 seconds on Treepoints.
Okay. Treepoints makes climate action really accessible to SMEs and individuals. It's through subscriptions and integrations. So people can, for example, plant trees or offset carbon directly through their checkout flow, for example. So far, we've planted about 200,000 trees and offset the equivalent of about 1,000 UK residents. And we've managed to make actually quite a successful social enterprise solving a problem that we care about.
How about 30 seconds on what you see as the big 5 trends in tech?
One of the big ones that's going to be interesting is around remote work. That's a fairly obvious one, but I think the dispersion of talent is a really good opportunity in the respect that you can now have access to a wider talent pool, and companies are used to operating that way. On the other hand, you've got cultural trade-offs because we found one of the things that's most rewarding about running startups is having people in the office and building that sort of team sense of team camaraderie. So having to trade that off. Another one, but this is a little bit biased, is sustainability is going to be a massive theme. Treepoints exists literally to sort of help solve that problem. And generally tech businesses are on the cleaner, greener end of businesses that are out there. But I think it's something that particularly platforms in tourism are becoming more cognizant of.
What's one thing that comes to mind that says, let's be aware of this?
Yep.
Crypto, AI.
Well, the one thing actually, it's similar but different is not so much the remote working, like permanent, fully distributed teams, but somewhere in between you get a lot of this kind of like semi-temporary, like work from anywhere, sort of hybrid-y approaches. People are going and they book an Airbnb for like 1 month, 2 months somewhere and work from there. There's some interplay with the kind of remote/hybrid stuff, but it's also a change in the way that people are actually traveling and experiencing the world. It's part of the reason that Airbnb has managed to actually not been too badly hit.
Done quite well out of the pandemic, relatively.
Yeah, because what they lack in people doing day trips, they make up for in people, first of all, going to non-urban areas, and secondly, people doing these like I'm going to work and live somewhere else for a bit.
Perfect
trips.
Hey guys, so as we wrap up here this segment, in quick on 30 seconds, rapid fire, what comes to mind as being the key learnings for 2 serial entrepreneurs? Period, or the key learnings?
Yeah, one is around HR. Managing people is hard. Ideally, if you can keep a team small, do, and don't underestimate the costs of forcing people out through burnout or making them unhappy. Jake?
For mine, I'd say it's easy to overestimate the difficulty of products and underestimate the difficulty of marketing. We can go into that in more detail, but I think it's really easy to create products these days, and it's sometimes more challenging to market them. Well,
and Jake, I don't know you normally as Jake Jacobs, so there you are, calling you. So it's great to have you both on the short version of Adapter TechX. Thanks to our team over at Hunter Gatherer and No Vacancy Live, and don't forget those takeaways. Keep it simple. Keep your team small if you can, and maximize capability. Remember that good old cryptocurrency is a thing, and more importantly, so is the eco push and being aware of products like Treepoints that can make it easy for businesses to satisfy their need to make a difference on the planet. So for this show and for others, please see us at the normal channels out there, and thanks for watching.
Bye.